Hello and welcome to the Xignal Word to S1000D demo. So to start, the Xignal Word to S1000D tool is a Word add-in, so it sits within Word itself. There's no external tools or applications. Okay, so before we dive into the actual demonstration of the tool, there's a couple of things that we'll have a quick look at first. So within your Documents folder, there will be a new Xignal folder when you install the Word add-in. Within there, we've got a few subfolders, most of which we're not too worried about for now, but a couple of them are important. So if we look first into the DMRL folder, we can see that I've got a couple of Excel DMRLs, one of which will come with the tool, so it gives you a template to use. So we're going to be using this one today, and this one I've just pre-populated with some data. So obviously a DMRL, the data module requirement list, is by no means an overhead of this tool. It's an overhead, or it should be an overhead, of any conversion program. So this should be one of the fundamental parts of your planning when you're converting Word data to S1000D, assuming it's more than one or two data modules worth. So back into the Xignal main folder, we've also got our output folder here. So this is where our data will be created. So all of our data modules that are generated from the tool will be saved back to this folder. The rest of them we won't get into now. The page credit file down here, worth mentioning that the price modeling of the tool is based on pages converted. So essentially what this is, it's just a page credit bundle file which is encrypted. So you essentially purchase page credits from us and we give you the file. So there's no external services, connections to internet, anything like that. It just monitors this file. Okay, so enough of that. So back to our Word document. So first of all, let's have a quick look at the S1000D tab that we've got up here. So within here we've got a few buttons, and the one we're interested in today is Word to S1000D. So let's click on that. And what that will do when we click on it, you'll see it opens up this pane up on the right hand side here. What it's done in the background, it has applied a new template to the document, and that's given us a bunch of S1000D styles, which we'll look at in just a second. But before we do, let's go into our settings here. Let's just pull that across, and what we'll see is a bunch of settings here that we can change in relation to the project that we're working. So we've got some project defaults here, useful if you're working several conversion programs concurrently. We're just interested in one, so we'll just keep it at project 1, but we can rename that if we want. We've got the output schema, so we can go 1.9 SGML, 2.3, 4.2 or 5 XML. We're also pointing at our DMRL file that we looked at earlier. So we can just pick that, and we can choose which originator code, RPC code, language and security, and a few other settings such as cross-reference prefixes down here. So typically a project will dictate what your cross-reference prefixes will be, whether it be F-001 or Fig-0001, and you can configure that here. Same with support equipment, spares and supplies. And here we're just pointing to that page credit file that we talked about a second ago. And here are the number of page credits that we've got. Okay, down here we've got a couple of checkboxes. Just to quickly explain this one, if we were to check this, it would actually highlight the styles as we're changing them, and that will make more sense as we get into it, but it's optional. We'll just leave it off for the minute. Okay, one thing I will do, actually, I can see that my ICNs are going to start at 6, so I'm just going to change that back to 1. It's obviously set at 6 from a previous demo, so let's just set that back to 1, so our sequential numbers will start with 1. Okay, so let's go to the Home tab, and we will open our Styles pane using this little drop down here. Now you remember I said that our document had a new template applied, giving us a bunch of new S1000D styles. Well, there they all are. So we've got cautions, warnings, notes, standard para text, which is just literally that. It's text that would be contained within para tags. We've got our descriptive styles here, so subpara, para zeros and subparas, and our steps here for our procedural data modules, and a couple of others as well. Okay, so let's get into the document. So this is a fairly typical extract from a maintenance manual, an aircraft maintenance manual. So we've got some descriptive text in here, some tables, we've got some graphics, various structure of data, notes and warnings and cautions, and we've got some procedural data down here as well. So what we'll do, we'll go down through and we'll start converting this data, or preparing it for the tool to convert. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to just start clicking into some of these paragraphs of text, just identifying what their existing styles are and just kind of establishing just how well structured this document is before we start converting. So we've got a normal here. We can see that any of this standard text is normal style. If I click into a bulleted list here, we can see it's got a list paragraph style. We can see that they've been given titles. Here we've got heading 2s. I presume there's some heading 3s and 4s in here as well. And we've got some note styles. Okay, so we can see straight away that the document has used styles, as Word documents should, and it's fairly well structured, which is not unusual for documents like this. You would hope that a maintenance manual would already have some fairly decent structure to it, and hopefully if it's been written in Word and you've got the original Word document, it will already have styles. So that's half the battle, because essentially the aim of the game here is to start converting, or is to start changing the existing styles here to our new S1000D styles. So really what we're looking to try and do is to do that as efficiently and quickly as possible. So obviously there's a couple of ways we can do this. So let's start off with this introduction. For example, it's a heading 1. Obviously I want that to change to a subpara 0 title, and I could click on this one, which was normal, and I would want that to change to standard para text, and I could start clicking down through the document. List paragraph, I could select a couple of those, I suppose, and I could start coming down through here, changing the titles sort of manually as I come down through. That's a rand list. Now that would be fairly time consuming, obviously. So what we can do, there's a couple of different ways we can do this. So there's the second way that we'll show now, is to, if we go back to the heading 1 here, we can say select all. And what that will do, it will select all of the heading 1s in the document, as you can see, and we can change them all at once. So that's what we'll do here. So if we come down, we want those to be subpara 0 titles, and it's changed all those for us in one go. And if we come to the next one, which is normal, we can see there are 456 instances of this. So we'll click on that, and that will take a few seconds. And as you can see, it's selected all 456 instances of normal. And what we can do, we can now change all of those at once to S1000D paratext. Okay. And what we can do now is come down to these list paragraphs, and we can select all 32 instances of those. And we come down and we want all those to be rand lists. So I think you can see here what the aim of the game is. What we're trying to do here is to change all of the styles that are here as quickly as possible into our new S1000D styles. So let's, excuse me, that was a note, let's select all the notes. There's 3 of those, and we want those to be S1000D notes. Now let's click down, we've got heading 2, let's select all our 12 instances of heading 2, and we want those to be subpara 1 titles. Now you can see what's happening here. The more, we're almost a page in now, but as we start clicking through the rest of this page, we can see that most of this has already been styled. And as we come into, let's say, page 2, page 3, let's get some more text, we can see that that's already been styled with S1000D, as has that, as has that. So we're only a page in, and a fair chunk of the document has probably already been styled. But you can also tell that it's going to start getting quite tricky to identify what has been styled and what hasn't. So what we can do, we can click on Identify here, and we can do update document, and what that will do, it'll highlight all the areas that haven't yet been styled. So let's look at this first one. This was title. Now we can do the same thing. We can select all 10 instances of title. Now what we're going to do, we're going to apply an S1000D ignore style to that, and what that means is when it gets converted to XML, the S1000D data module, it will completely ignore anything with an S1000D ignore style applied to it. Why do we want to do that? Well, because you'll see in a minute when we wrap the text and actually assign a data module code to it, it will use the tech name and info name that we assigned it in the DMRL. So actually this is redundant to us because this will actually be replaced by the tech name and info name of our data module. So I've already selected all of the instances of title, and I now want S1000D ignore. Okay, and it has done that. And then we've got this one here, so these are captions. So let's select all 7 instances of captions. Now the captions are table titles in this case, so we want to choose S1000D table title, which is done, and we can click update document at any point and it will update. Okay, took a few seconds there, but it will update the styles that we've got applied, so now it knows that we've styled those. It's removed the highlighting from them. Okay, so as we're coming through now, we can see all of this is styled. There we go, we've got a figure title there that's not styled, so let's click on figure. We'll select 5 instances of the figure title, and we'll come down and assign that S1000D figure title, so it would have done all those. Okay, now those are done, we know that. Okay, this must all be done, none of this is green. Okay, we know we've done those, but let's just click update document again so we can update those. There we go. This is all done. Right, okay, here's a few we haven't done. So heading 3s, let's select all of our heading 3s, 9 instances, and we want those to be S1000D subpara 2 titles. Okay, let's click update document again so we can update the highlighting. There we go. What have we got left that's green? There we go, we've got some steps down here. Okay, so now we're into some procedural text. So what we're going to do is we are going to assign some support equipment as well. So first of all, we've got these intense references. Now for some reason these intense references, Word treats these a little bit differently, so we have to manually select these, S1000D warning, and sometimes we even have to select that twice because Word really doesn't like changing these intense references. There we go. Okay, so what we'll do now, we will okay, now you can see what's happened here. So this would have been a heading 1 in our original document, and because we've changed all of the heading 1s to subpara 0 titles, it's actually given us a subpara 0 title here. Now we could carry on and let the validator run and it would identify there's a problem there. In fact, let's do that. Let's just leave that for a second and let it identify that. Okay, so let's assign some support equipment. So firstly, we don't want these headings here, do we? We know that because they are not required in our S1000D data module. They will be automatically generated. What we do want, however, is this support equipment. So I'm going to highlight all of that. I'm going to say that's a support equipment item, and I'm going to do the same with this one. And I'm going to say that's a support equipment item. And now what we can do, we can highlight there, and we can just do a right click and say that's the nomenclature, and that there is our quantity, and this here is our part number. So we'll do the same here, nomenclature, quantity, oops, you're going to be a pain, aren't you? There we go. And part number. Okay. And what that will do, it will generate all of the applicable element for us when we create the data module shortly. Okay, now coming down, if we click on there again, we can see this has been assigned an S1000D subpara 1 title, because this would have been a heading in the previous, in our existing kind of document. So what we're going to do, we're actually going to assign this a step 1, I think. Some projects would use step titles and some would use step 1s. I'm actually going to use a step 1 for this, I think, and I'll make these step 2s. So procedure level 1s, I'm going to select all of these procedure level 1s. There's 16 instances, and I'm going to make those step 2s. Okay, great. Okay, let's do an update so we can update the highlighting. Okay, so we have step 1s and we've got some step 2s, a warning. Then we come down into this other data module here. Now, actually, we probably don't want this in our procedural module. We don't need descriptive text, typically speaking, in our procedural modules. So I will just give this ignore for the sake of demo. Remove the top engine cowling, remove the bottom engine cowling. Right, so what we'll do, we'll use step 1s for these. So that will be a step 1. We've got a couple of warnings. Then we come into our step 2s that we've already done. This here is a list number, so what we'll do, we'll select 7 instances of list number, and we'll select S1000D numbered list for those. Okay, there's not much left, as you can see. We know we want these to be step 1s. We want this as a step 1, and then we come down into step 2s. We've got some random lists in here. We've got some numbered lists. Again, let's just do an update of the document to lose the green. There we go. And I think we're more or less done here. So what do we need to do now? What we need is to tell the system where, or tell the document where, or tell the tool, I'm sorry, where our data modules start and end. Okay, so to do that, what we'll do, we will highlight our first data module. So that's going to end here. And we will double click on DM container. What this is doing, it's opening up our DMRL that we created earlier in Excel. This is a representation of that, and we are going to select the module. So this is Standard Practices Airframe. I'm going to select Descriptive. It's actually telling us it's already been allocated. It hasn't. That's just from a previous conversion or demo that I did. So when I click Select now, it will warn me that this data module has already been allocated. Okay. Now, are you sure you want to use this DM again? I can click yes because I'm confident that I want to use it. We can see that there's the data module code there, and the data module code there listed for you. Okay. Okay, next one. So let's come down to this one. We can just highlight this data module, and you can see that's the end of it there. So let's double click DM container again. Interior placards and markings, descriptive, select. Okay, that one's been wrapped as well. Now let's do this one. This is the, oops, this is to do with the instrument cluster. Okay, that's that one. Double click DM container. We want the third data module down. Descriptive, select. Here is our fourth. Now you notice I'm not selecting the paragraphs that I've ignored. I can do, it doesn't make any difference. Let's just we'll select that one for demonstration. Because we've applied an S1000D ignore tag to it, it will be ignored by the tool anyway. So DM container, double click, electrical power general description, that's another descriptive, select. Okay, and here's our Rudder maintenance practices. Now, remember I said before I'm leaving these as as para 0 titles and subparas. So when we run the tool in a minute, it will throw a validation error. But let's just have a look at that. Okay, so select all this module. That's that lot there. Okay, rudder controls adjust, procedural select. Okay, let's wrap that one. The fact that it's generated a 1.8 there, we don't need to worry about that. It won't add an extra step in the output. and then we've got our cowling maintenance practices, so let's highlight this final one. Okay, so this is our remove and install. Okay, procedural, and there we go. Right, so we have prepared the document, we've styled it, we've wrapped the chunks of content in the correct containers. Now what we're going to do is we are going to hit the run button, and what this will do, it will start running a validation check. So let's hit that now. Okay, great. So validation failed. See validation window for details. So let's click OK. And now let's click back, scroll back to the top. We can see that the first module, the 030, we can see it was a descriptive DM container. It's validating the word styles against the context rules. It counted 4 tables and 0 graphics, and it passed the validation. Same with the second, but there was 3 graphics in there, but it's passed. Same with the fourth, passed. Fifth, passed. And now we've got a couple of problems in these last 2 procedurals. So what are they? It's saying it cannot have a descriptive style in a procedural container. S1000D para0 title style in a procedural DM is not allowed. And it's doing the same, giving us the same for the 920 down here. Cannot have descriptive styles in procedural container. It's found some S1000D paratext styling in a procedural DM, and that's not allowed. So it's telling us there's validation errors, and the paragraphs in the problem areas have been highlighted. Fix these before trying again. Okay, so let's just scroll down. Okay, so here's the first area it's found a slight problem with. So if I click there, we can see for whatever reason, Word can do some funny things. It's got some styling in this empty paragraph. So there's a really simple fix. We just delete it. Okay. So let's come down a bit further. Nothing else there. There we go. So this is the area that we said we're going to have some problems. So what we'll do, we'll apply an ignore style here because we don't need that title, and we'll do the same there because that will also throw an error in just a second. Whoops. Okay, let's see how we get on now. Let's click run again. Okay, it's still got some problems here, so let's have another look. So this time it's S1000D paratext styles, and we've got the same problems that we had before, just in a different area of the document, so let's just remove that. And is there anything else? Yep, we've got a load there as well, so simple fix. There we go, let's run again. Okay, we've got just down to 1 error now by the looks of it, and it's this area here, so let's close this. Okay, and we can run that, and I think that'll probably pass this time. Okay, great. So there we go. Okay, so it's telling us that the document validation was successful, and it's asking us to click OK to build the data modules. So when we click OK now, it will start to actually compile those modules from our content. So let's click OK. So as you can see, the tool is going through and processing each paragraph one by one, converting our tables to the CALS format. You'll notice we didn't do anything with the tables within the Word document, but it automatically extracts those tables and the content and converts those for us. The same with graphics. We didn't do anything with those specifically. We just left those alone and gave them a title, or at least applied the style, the title style. But it will automatically extract these graphics and assign them the ICN with the correct SNS and the correct sequential number. So we can see at the bottom here the total number of containers in Word was 6, and the total number of S1000D DMs created was 6. Perfect. So let's have a look at the output. And back to our output folder, and if we have a look, there are our DMs and our illustrations. So there are our graphics with the correct SNS in accordance with the data module that they're associated with, and the sequential numbers running through, as you can see. Okay, so what we'll do now, we will zip up this package and we will then import it into Xignal, so that we've got them in the CSDB and we can go into them into an editor, we can have a look at them, make sure they're okay, and give them a final review before they're issued. Just before we do that, I want to jump back into the document and look at one other function within the Xignal Word to S1000D converter. So let's look at the scenario whereby we may have a whole bunch of Word documents within a folder, and each of those Word documents would contain the same kind of legacy styling styles to the paragraphs. We obviously don't want to be going in and having to do the same process for each one of the documents, so we'd have to go in and we'd have to do that same kind of process of selecting all styles and converting to the S1000D styles. So what we've got the ability to do, if we look down here at the right, we've got this style mapper. So if we open the style mapper, what this essentially enables us to do is to kind of pre-configure the tool so that it knows exactly what existing styles we want to map to our new S1000D styles. So to do that, we would click on one of the existing styles, we would set that existing style, select our new S1000D style, set that style, save the style pair, and that builds up this table here of styles, the existing styles to our new styles. What that enables us then to do is select the folder path where our bunch of Word documents are, and we can batch convert the styles across that whole range of Word documents without having to go into each one and do that process of manually converting the styles. So all that would leave us to do then, we could open each of those Word documents in turn and just wrap the content, the chunks of content, with our containers. So that really reduces the amount of work to do over multiple Word documents. So what we're essentially doing is using our first Word document to kind of teach the converter which styles we want to map to our new styles. So that can save a significant amount of time if you've got a large number of Word documents. Okay, so let's jump into Xignal, and we will import that data. Okay, so here we are in Xignal S1000D, our CSDB and integrated editing environment. So the first thing we need to do before we import our newly converted data is just go to project list and make sure we've got the correct project selected. Okay, so if we now come down to data modules and we go to import, we can drag our newly converted data, our zip package, into the box there, and then that's just uploaded, and now we can validate that data. So that's perfect. As you can see, we've got a full complement of blue ticks, which is exactly what we wanted. The most relevant one to us at this point is the parsing check. So as you can see, they have all parsed the S1000D schema parsing check. Okay, so let's pull them in. So click on import. Okay, and here's our summary. We can see the number of data modules was 6 and the number of entities was 5. So now we can go to the data module manager, and here are our modules. So as you can see, they've come in at status pending, so we still need to assign an author to them. So let's assign an author to this module here. I'm the only author assigned to this project, so I'll pick me. Okay, so we can now check out this data module, and we can open it in our editing environment. So let's do that. Okay, so as an example, here is one of our data modules. This is our Rudder controls adjust data module. So this was the one that we had a couple of items of support equipment that we tagged up. So here are our 2 items. There's the ruler or deflection gauge and the rudder lock gag. And it's come across with the part number and the quantity. If we wanted to add more items, of course, we just click here and we can just add more items as required. But of course we're just validating existing data, so we don't need to do that. So let's come down through. So here's a couple of warnings that we've got as safety conditions in here. So one of the things that we do need to do, typically as part of our cleanup operation, is remove the word warning or caution or even note, which would have been put in the Word document. Of course, in S1000D we don't need to prefix the warning with the word warning, because that will be auto-generated by either the style sheet in the editor or by the style sheet of the output, PDF or IETP or whatever it might be. So just coming down, we can see we've got our procedural step here, and here are our procedural steps nested in the procedural step here. Now, of course, we tagged it up as a step 1 and step 2, which is kind of the old S1000D naming conventions, but we converted to an S1000D 4.2, which means it's converted to the correct element names of procedural step and nested them accordingly. Okay, so again, we'll just remove the word warning from here, and that is more or less all we need to do in here as part of cleanup. Oh, there's a rogue number there, which we don't need either. But that is more or less it. So as you can see, minimal cleanup required. And then what we would do, of course, we would save it, and then we would send that data module for review. Okay, so hopefully that has given you a fairly good indication of the conversion program and how we pull it into Xignal to do the validating and cleanup. Any questions, please do give me a shout. And thanks for watching.